ブランニュースプーンプーンの提供でお送りします。
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Actcast, a podcast for the study of modern visual culture. I'm your dying boy, Soup.
I'm not dying, Renu.
This week, AT stands for Absolute Territory because we'll be talking about the Winter 2019 season. No, yes, winter. Okay, 2019.
Oh my god, did you lose where we were for a second?
No, I had to double take. I was like, wait, shit, is it something else now? Okay, never mind.
Is it still winter?
Is it still winter? Yes, it's definitely still winter.
You're in California, so it makes sense that you would lose track of the seasons.
That's true. We don't really have winter, unfortunately, I guess. Well, some parts of California do have winter, but we're not having like polar vortex or anything, which is seeming to be sort of a yearly occurrence now, where for just a couple weeks at a time, the entire middle of the country goes into the deep freeze for a couple weeks.
Yeah, I think the last time that it happened, I was actually in school in Chicago, but I had flown home to the East Coast for winter break. So thankfully I left during the vortex, and when I came back, it was still like in the negatives, but like it wasn't nearly as bad as it had gotten, during that winter. And now it's even colder than the first one.
It just keeps getting colder.
Yeah.
It just eventually we're all just gonna turn into popsicles, and then the other half of the world is gonna be drowning, and that's how global warming works, kids. It's just gonna fuck everything up, and then we die. That's grim. But let's talk about something less grim, which is that we finally got around to watching the Winter 2019 season. We've only watched the first episode of all the things we've been talking about, and we haven't even watched all of the stuff that I have on like our list of things to watch. But I mean, it's whatever. It happens due to some scheduling hiccups.
Well, I mean, if it's anything that you keep up with, you can we'll talk about it during the finale. Finale.
I mean, I don't think any of the other stuff that I have on this list is really going to be all that great, but I have it on here for one reason or another. So, I mean, maybe I'll talk about it next time. But anyway, this is going to be our 2019 sample. We've only watched the first episode of most of these shows. And before we get into that, what have we been up to? It's actually been a shorter amount of time than it usually is.
Yeah. So since our last cast, I have been playing the heckle out of Kingdom Hearts 3.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Yeah, so that finally came out, and it's wonderful. It is everything that you like about Kingdom Hearts in this game as well. They didn't stray too far from the themes and the quote-unquote formula or anything that makes up Kingdom Hearts, so you still got really fun abilities. You can still kind of customize your character in the beginning with the choices that you make. Like, are you going to be more attack focused, magic focused, etc. And it's beautiful. It is definitely like a really gorgeous game. The mechanics are still like it's still pretty floaty in terms of like the controls and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And within the first, I guess, like section of the game, you get all your abilities and stuff that you can unlock, all your different types of abilities. I mean, they might even add more, but like so far they've added so many that it's just kind of crazy. It's a little overwhelming until you really get used to using all of them. But like sometimes I just forget about all the options that I have, right? So there's like regular attacks, and then you have magic, of course, and then you can switch your keyblades in the middle of combat. And then you also have special moves that, if you hit the enemy enough times, you got like a special bar that charges up and you can use a certain type of special. But then you also have specials that you can do with your party members that they charge up too. And then you also have like certain monsters during battle. If you manage to kill them in time, it will unlock an ability that's called an attraction. And so if you activate that, it turns your party into a Disney theme park ride.
What?
And so literally the first thing I turned into was the swinging ship, And so then you just swing back and forth in the middle of combat, and then your final move is to like swing all the way around and round and round, and then, you know, explode or whatever. And
What the heck?
and there was also like the carousel. There was a mountain coaster. The teacups. Oh my god, there's so many, and it's surprisingly a lot of fun. It's just also like really random and wild, right? But it's on brand, right? It's Disney, and makes you think of all the rides at Disney World and Disneyland. So I think it's a fun addition, a little overpowered, but you know. And they also have rage mode, which if you like, I guess if you dip down into critical HP, you turn into like Heartless Sora, basically. I don't know all the specifics. I'm probably saying all this wrong and people are going to get mad at me, but basically you turn into a more powerful version of yourself, and you can run around and fight the enemy that way too. So there's just like a lot of different things that you can do. And you also, in this part that I just played, you unlocked links, which are like summons.
Oh.
So you also have that. It's just so much soup.
Okay. Is this the time when I admit that I've only ever played 358 over 2? Which is a confusing one to start with.
Yes. Kind of right in the middle of it.
I have a general grasp of, I think, what the story is like, and it was still good, actually.
Okay.
I think. I don't know how people who actually play these games think about 358 over 2, but I thought it was good.
Well, that's
but
good.
I also didn't play the first one because
I think 358 over 2 is generally well received because people like the characters so much.
Yeah, I think that seems to be the case.
Yeah.
The thing is, I owned a PS2 that was a hand-me-down, but I'd never bought any games for it, so I only ever played the games that came with it.
Really?
Because I got it secondhand from my uncle, and I was a small child with no disposable income.
Yeah.
And then
PS2 came out at the right time for me, so that was my console.
Yeah, like as a growing child in those times, as like a growing young adult now, I realize like, wow, it was so nice when I was a kid. I didn't even need money. Like I didn't receive money at all. I just lived without the constraints of money.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously my family still had to have a place to live and food to put on the table, but you know,
but you could be happy without having to buy things.
Right, I could be happy without having to buy things, but now that I'm like a jaded 22-year-old,
God.
the strong sway of the capitalist system and the commodity fetishism is really strong. Speaking of commodity fetishism, I bought something.
Oh, tell me.
I bought a pair of ear-fit headphones called the Audio-Technica ATH EQ300M SV Silver. And that sounds really complicated, but they're $15, and they're just the headphones that the Persona 3 protagonist wears, the ones that just like dangle loosely from his neck.
Ear-fit headphones. Let me look them up and I'm gonna judge them. Oh, okay, so I actually have gone through a couple of different kinds of these kinds of headphones because they're my favorite.
Yes, I've owned a couple of these over the years because I grew up right at the time when like CD players were still around.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, hilarious, by the way. I think that's really funny.
Yeah, so these are, because I cannot wear earbuds because they either make the inside of my ears hurt, or they fall out all the time. They never fit properly. And
you might have small ears.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, these ones, of course, because they clip onto the outside of your ear and they're lightweight, they work for me. The ones I have right now are the Sony ones. They're more expensive, but they also have the retractable cord, which is nice, except that they're not, because they're so lightweight, they are quite fragile. And so the cord device on mine doesn't know how to stay like not retracted, right? It's always like it doesn't stay out. It just like always wants to be in the like wound up in the headphones. So like I don't know how to fix it, and now I don't use them anymore because I can't.
Yeah. I mean, I have earbuds technically, although they're just the ones that came with my phone because I lost or broke the other ones. And these, I think I personally prefer like in-ear earbuds because like those are comfortable for me. But these are nice because they're fashionable, and you can just
wear them for the fashion.
Yeah, I legitimately bought these as a fashion statement, and like that's just like kind of the most extra thing possible. Now that I think about it,
I can't believe you quote unquote jaded 22-year-old.
Yeah, listen. This is what I'm talking about. This is the kind of inane stuff that makes me happy now, and that's like terrible. Yeah. What else have you been up to? Anything else?
I mean, that's the most important thing of my life in the past 10 years of gaming.
I was gonna say it sounds kind of like the most important thing in a lot of people's lives for a really long time now.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. I can't wait to play again and see what is up and what heads or tails I can make of the story, because I too don't know much about the story despite playing the first and second game.
Yeah. I mean, listen, when you play them that early, your brain doesn't remember all the fine details, and then when you actually look into it, you're just like, hey, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Why are they called nobodies if they have only the bodies? Why are they called heartless if they have only the hearts? Huh?
Yeah, they have a nice like the whole beginning intro of 3 is like just like
the story till now.
The sewn together cutscenes from
God.
all of the games, right? So like the spin-offs too. So I was just like, oh, look at all this stuff that I didn't play. Oh, I recognize that one though, and this one. Oh, and look at all this other stuff I didn't play.
I've never been like the Kingdom Hearts person, but I support you and all of your excitement about this game secondhand, because I just have no idea about any of it. I feel like I'm completely lost. I missed this. Like
you missed the wave.
I was a Nintendo boy growing up. I didn't play like actual PS2 games. I just played like the Yu Yu Hakusho fighting game and that one samurai game where you have to tilt your control stick to like turn and then you press forward to move. It's weird. I don't know. The control scheme of the game was really weird, but I don't remember what it's called. But I just remember how weird the control scheme was.
Huh, interesting.
It was a fun game. But yeah, I mean, I grew up with like a Game Boy.
Yeah, me too.
Actually, I never owned a Game Boy. I owned a Game Boy Advance though.
Oh, you're a rich boy. I had a Game Boy Pocket.
Wow, a Game Boy Pocket. What a throwback. I mean, I had a Game Boy Advance because my mom was just at Costco one day and found it and decided to pick it up and was like, my child would like this. And that was like maybe the greatest mistake she's ever made in her life, because it doomed me to a life of playing video games. And look at where we are now. Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Mario.
Yeah, I think my parents also regretted buying the OG Nintendo console for my brothers, and, because like after that it was just downward for one of my brothers and I.
I owned like every Nintendo system from like the Game Boy Advance until about the Wii U.
Wow.
Like I had
at all.
Yeah, I had the Game Boy Advance. I had the SP, which was the greatest thing that ever happened to my tiny child brain, where I was like, I can play this at night and I don't need a light.
Oh my god.
The backlit screen was honestly the greatest invention of all time. To my little tiny child eyes, I was like, I can play Pokemon in the dark. And then I owned every version of the DS except for the DS I did not own a DSi, but then I got a 3DS.
Wow.
And I had the GameCube, and I had a Wii, obviously, because everyone had a Wii. It's just those are the facts of life. Everyone owned a Wii. For some reason, when the Wii came out, they marketed it so incredibly well that it just accidentally everyone got one. Do you remember people were like lining outside for these things? They were just like, I gotta play Wii bowling with my kids.
Dude, yeah, you know? I my parents never actually got the Wii because I think by that point the kids were old enough to buy their own stuff, so they were like, we don't need to buy you games anymore, and plus we kind of want you to play less games. So
see, my problem only got worse because I went from consoles and I at some point owned like a PS3 and a couple games on PS3, but I went from owning consoles to, well, owning a computer, and that was maybe the worst mistake they've ever made in their lives. But you know, I guess some things in hindsight. Yeah, that was, I mean, I would classify that as like maybe the greatest mistake they ever made. But
I think it would have happened anyway, though.
I think that's true. But I played vastly more games when that whole thing started. I played a ton of DS games though. Like I played a lot of really obscure DS titles that a lot of people have never heard of, and that I somewhat struggle to recall the names of now, like however many years down the line. But I owned one of those like weird R4 chips, so I could just pirate any game I wanted using ROMs. And of course, as a tiny child that doesn't have any money, that's like the greatest thing you could give somebody. And I have a very specific memory, which is this is a very interesting memory, right? Where this is how I experienced The World Ends With You for the first time. Where I downloaded a ROM of it onto my like weird R4 card, which is just like a hacked car, like a hacked DS chip that you could plug a micro SD card into, and it had like programming to emulate games. Now the problem was that for whatever reason, and to this day I still don't quite understand it. I guess it's just like lack of resources in being able to run it because of some kind of programming fault. The beginning of The World Ends With You would freeze the card and the game. Oh. Because I think the problem is that there was not enough flash memory on the pirate card. Oh. And the solution to this, there was one, was really interesting because you had to wait for a very specific moment, and then you closed the DS and you let it sit there for like 10 minutes, and then you opened it and it would continue. Because I guess that would just give the processor enough time to process all the information so it wouldn't just like crash. Anyway, that's how I played The World Ends With You for the first time, and I to this day still love that game. I really want to pick it up on Switch actually, because I hear there's some extra stuff in there.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah. I mean, I guess what I've been doing is just dying and being dead. I'm still a little sick because I just get variable amounts of rest, and my waking hours are haunted by Karl Marx and his writings.
Oh my god.
That's not true. I like Marx, but you know, if you couldn't tell, I like Marx. But you know, I have a lot of work, and sometimes it clashes with all the other obligations I have to do, and unfortunately, I don't get paid for any of it, so I'm just kind of suffering. Because here's the thing, right? Is that last week I got sick because I did this bad thing that I do where I stay up till like 5 a.m. Before my 8 a.m., right? Yeah. Well, this week I did a lot better because on Monday I went to sleep at 2 a.m., which means I got 4 hours of sleep, and then I napped in between during my 12-hour day. And then I got home, and of course I played video games because I'm me. And then I went to sleep, for what was essentially like 14 hours. Again. So I woke up at about 2 p.m. the next day after going to sleep at like, I think 12 a.m. And I woke up at about 2 p.m. Now, that would not be a problem otherwise, but then I went back to sleep accidentally at 4 p.m. and woke up at 6. And, that's basically 16 hours of sleeping, which is understandable, But here's the problem with that, is that I had made an obligation to, an hour from that point, watch anime so that we could talk about it on the podcast.
Yeah.
And then also I had 50 plus pages of reading and an essay.
Oh my god.
And my next day started at 8 a.m. So we watched anime till about 11:30, right?
Yeah.
And I stared at this essay for 6 hours. And this is bad because this is a 3-page essay. It's not even a long essay, but because it's about medieval French literature, I have so little actual interest in it that I just stared blankly for 6 hours. And I was like, well, I guess I can't make my 8 a.m. So I spent the next couple hours writing it. And then I rushed to the bus stop at 11. And then I found out that the bus stop is closed because they're renovating the entire sidewalk. And so I had to run all the way to the other bus stop. And then I still got to class like 10 minutes late. And then I turned in my paper. And then I went to class. And then I came back. And then I went to sleep. And then I woke up. And now I'm here. So, in short, my life is going to get a lot better once my schedule actually stabilizes, which is hopefully next week. But until then, I'm suffering. And because of that, my body won't get better. It's not recovering because I can never rest.
If you made resting your priority instead of literally everything else, then yes, you would get rest.
People are counting on me, Renu.
No, they will make do while you recover from illness.
People are counting on me.
My God.
Anyway, yeah, and then on to top it all off, I'm going home this weekend so that I can go to a family thing. Anyway,
yeah,
it's a whole thing. And then obviously this episode we're putting out now, again, like 3 or 4 episodes into the season, which is not as bad as the last time.
It's not as bad as last time.
Not
Why
as bad as last time.
Like that?
We're making good time technically.
Yeah.
But it's still just like upsetting to me that it took this long to get this episode out.
It's okay. We're making it happen right now.
Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about anime because
let's talk about anime.
If we don't, we're really just gonna be here forever.
Yeah.
And even if we do, we're just gonna be here forever.
Yeah.
It already feels like it's been like an hour, but
we start now?
Yes. Okay, Renu, I'll let you start.
Okay, so we are starting with, of course, the best, Mob Psycho 100 Season 2. I have been waiting anxiously for this season ever since the last one ended. But yeah, it continues basically right where it left off last time, which is just more adventures with Mob and our favorite, I don't know, he's just a good boy, Soup.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Why does the world want to hurt him? I don't understand.
I don't know. I don't know.
But yeah,
he deserves the world.
He does. And of course, Studio Bones, again, like they're the perfect ones to make this anime because they make it so gorgeous. And this season is more of beautiful mob psychic powers and the really, really cool ghost demons doing their stuff. And yeah, it's awesome. I love it. I can't wait to watch more of it.
Nice. Yeah.
The first episode was kind of like a slow little intro, and then little flashes of cool magical psychic stuff happening. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love Mob Psycho so much. It is.
Me too.
I think a lot of people hype up One Punch Man as like the best thing ever, and I love One Punch Man. Like, don't get me wrong, but Mob Psycho is probably my favorite of the One Pieces.
Me too.
I think that, and especially because the animation is like so good too, because they took his his drawing style and then turned it into an anime.
Yes.
And it looks really good.
Yes.
And they do a lot of experimentation with the kinds of animation that they do.
Absolutely.
Like, all of that compounds to make a show that's really good. And like Mob Psycho is so good because at its core it's about like, you know, this young boy trying to navigate the world, and he's got all these emotions that sometimes he can't handle. He has too many of them. And I don't know. I love that. It is more than anything a show with a lot of like empathy and heart to it, and I'm glad that it exists.
Yes, me too.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like Mob Psycho is something that you should definitely watch, and if you haven't seen season 1, you should watch season 1, and if you have seen season 1, you should watch season 2. Like, it's kind of as simple as that. Like, it is something that I would just recommend with no strings attached. Honestly, just watch it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's just like across the board a good anime, and it's not anything where you have to be like specifically genre locked. Like, oh, I only watch shoujo. Oh, I only watch shonen or whatever. Like, I feel like it's approachable enough that people across genres can approach this anime and like it.
Yeah, I mean, it is a very, like, One is really good about subverting expectations, especially of known genre conventions, and that's why Mob Psycho and One Punch Man are so good, because it surprises you with the ways that it handles certain things, and you're like, oh, yeah. So,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, I don't have much more to say about it for now, but it is, I mean, it is one of the most gorgeous animated things that you can watch with your eyes. It is a treat to watch because it is, I mean, in the first episode of the second season, they have like these like sort of pencil animated looking sequences.
Yes.
And they use it to capture the like weird ghostiness really well. And that's something that they've done since season 1. So yeah, it's still the same top tier quality Mob Psycho that you have come to expect. So definitely watch it. Definitely watch it. Just everybody watch it. Everybody watch Mob Psycho. It's like one of my favorite things ever.
Yeah.
Okay. Now it's time to talk about the Rising of the Shield Hero, or Tate no Yusha no Nariagari. Or as I like to call it, the Rising of the Incel Hero.
I'm laughing because, and Soup's laughing because he knows what's about to happen.
Okay, so here we go. We're gonna get into some stuff. We're gonna rip this anime apart. And if that is something that you just don't want to hear, you don't have to hear it. You can just like scrub forward until you find when we stop talking about it.
I will say that it's not that this series is bad.
No.
Yeah, it is very competent as an isekai and as it's, what it's trying to aim for. It's just that what it's trying to aim for is exactly the kind of stuff that rubs us the wrong way.
Yeah, like there are some issues with both the way the show is written and also the way that it is received, and a lot of this is not the anime studio's fault, because a lot of this is just material that exists in the original like light novels. And of course we'll get into it, because I think the studio does a great job of adapting it. Like, I think as far as an anime adaptation goes, this is about as good as you usually get, unless you're like Mob Psycho. But Mob Psycho barely counts because, like, good lord, it's so good.
It's in another league.
Yeah, no, it is completely in another league. And, and it's like, and just like as a preface, right?
Yeah. And you read a lot of the manga, right?
I've read a significant amount of the manga, like probably at least half of what's out now.
Okay.
But it was a long time ago. But I can definitely tell you about stuff that happens.
Sure.
This conversation is going to talk about stuff like non-belief or skepticism towards like accusations of like sexual assault. So if that is also something that's like not something that you like want to hear, you can definitely scrub forward, and it's not gonna like. Our take is basically it's just not a very responsible show.
Yeah.
Yeah. So feel free to scrub forward if that's not something that you're really out to hear right now, and I get it. Yeah. So
let's get into it.
Why is this show like this? Okay. All right. So.
What is this show about? Yes.
Okay, I'll explain the premise of the show first.
Yes,
so basically, the way that the show works is it is an isekai about a dude that gets sent to a fantasy world. I mean, that's how isekai works. Your random loner, neat otaku guy gets sent to a fantasy world, and suddenly he's good or bad, depending on what show it is.
Yes.
And he learns that there are 4 heroes that have been summoned from different versions of Japan, slightly different versions of Japan. And he is like the only one who gets like the shit roll because he's the shield hero. They're not allowed to fight together, which is like a big contrivance, of course, right?
Yeah.
They're not allowed to fight together, or else they won't get XP basically. And he gets the shield, which is to say he gets the weapon that's not a weapon. And then also, no one likes him, so none of the adventurers decide they want to adventure with him. And so he's like, "But how am I supposed to level up without a party?"
Yeah, he's the most ignorant of the 4 because the other 3 have had played games that were similar to the world that they're in, right? So they are relatively familiar with how it works.
Basically, the other 3 are regular isekai protagonists, and this guy is like the numpty. Like he doesn't get anything. He's just a fool. He doesn't get anything. And even the sort of royal court brushes him off. They're like, well, he's just the shield guy. He's nothing.
Yeah.
So that's the general premise of it. And then in the first episode, they have this whole lengthy sequence, and it's like the first episode is a double header too, because it's paced very specifically. And I'll say that the pacing is done like well and deliberately. It's just unfortunate that what they're like building up to is what eventually turns out to be the setup for the rest of the show, which is that basically, so someone is like, "Oh, shield hero, I'll join your party because no one else will," and I feel bad. And, it's like, "Oh, wow, that's nice." And then they like go and they like get geared up and they eat shit. And I mean, they eat like good food, not shit. And then they, do some adventure and stuff. And then he gets robbed, and like she just takes all his stuff and leaves, and then accuses him of sexual assault, which, we as the audience know that he didn't do. Obviously, because he didn't drink, he just went to sleep. And then he is basically tried by the court, and they're just like, well, what's a due process anyway?
It wasn't even a court trial. It was him being arrested by the King's Guards, and they take him to the throne room, and then everyone looks at him like he's, a rapist. Yeah. And
basically, because in this world, and we'll talk about. We'll talk about this. So this world, you might think it's just a regular isekai world, but no. Little did you know that it's actually a matriarchy, and sexual assault is the crime that is like most punishable by death. Which is like, okay. Like, sure.
Like
even
being falsely accused or just accused in general.
Even accusations can like lead to death. And I have some thoughts about this.
I have a lot of thoughts about this.
But basically, that's why the main character has to basically like, oh God, the main character is like, oh, everyone hates me and I've been wronged by the court. I'm going to go on a revenge quest. I'll show you fuckers.
Yeah.
And
so
it's like
everything from that point is just a revenge quest for him.
yeah, and it's boy, I wish it wasn't set up like this. And like let's just like dive straight into this. Like this is not the way that you set up your show. Like you do not set up your show like this.
Your story, rather, because this is the author. This isn't the
this is the author.
anime.
Yeah, you don't set up your story like this. It's so contrived. It is like so contrived because there's like 4 different layers to this whole thing. Where it's like first you have to have the isekai world be like a matriarchy. Which there's no indication.
Matriarchy.
I was gonna say there's no indication of in the first episode, and I think the queen, I guess, shows up later. But like, isn't it weird that the queen is not the person? Like, I don't know, the highest ruling power in the land is not the person to receive the 4 heroes.
Yes, is the king. And you're like, wait, you don't see any kind of indication of the queen, which I'm not sure if they might have like stuck her like in a painting somewhere, or maybe they referenced her in the background, like really subtly.
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing, right? here's the thing that really gets to me, right? Is that it seems to just be lip service that it's like a matriarchy just to set up the thing.
Exactly.
Because like there's no actual indication that anything about this world is different from a patriarchal feudal society.
Exactly. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And you can look at the cast of characters that they present in the first episode. All 4 heroes are male. Okay, well, they're from different worlds. Who cares? Okay, they get greeted by the king, right? Male. The king's guards, all male. Some of the court people are female, but they don't have any lines or anything. They just kind of like look on, but they're also accompanied by males. The shopkeepers, all male. Literally, the only 2, I would say probably the only female character who actually gets a significant talking role is the woman who deceives him. Right? Yes. And then all of the other females, there's one guy, one of the heroes, he gets a harem of female adventurers to himself. So these are all of the female characters that they presented in the show. Only one of them actually talks in the first episode, and she's the one that tricks the main hero.
Yeah, and oh boy, it is just not good. Like, it's so clear that is just the setup, like the setup contrivance to put the main character in a worse situation. And the reason I hate that is because not only is it like, first of all, not responsible, right? It's like you cannot have a show that is geared towards a certain demographic in Japanese culture that identifies and empathizes and is meant to identify themselves with this character, and then have the thing that they like that he is wronged of be like, well, this woman like falsely accused him of a sexual assault, and it like reads so strongly like somebody who is like, ugh, women are scary because they hold social power over me. Look at how privileged they are. And it's like, okay, like, did you stop and think about how maybe instead of focusing on that, you focus on the fact that this is a world that has like literally decided to believe women when they are like, I was attacked. Like,
exactly.
Like, my legit first thought was, wow, that sounds awesome.
I know. I was appalled that they cast that in such a negative light. I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And
I was pissed.
Like, it's just not, it's not a good narrative, especially in the current, sphere around the harassment of women and then the non-belief of women, especially in anime, but you know, in other spheres as well. And like this isn't just like a Western perspective either. Like this is a perspective that also exists in Japan, you know, of like these people who are like, women don't love me. They should, but they don't. I'm so wronged by society. It's society that is wrong. And it's like,
yeah, this is what would happen in a matriarchy.
Right.
Oh
this is exactly the kind of thing where it's clear that the author has not thought deeply about this in any respect. Yeah. And also that they just harbor some kind of internalized like phobia of women. And I've been told that the author of this light novel is a woman, but like I haven't seen anything that substantiates that claim. But also, like, you know, women can also be sexist as it turns out. Weird, huh? It's almost like it's a societal thing.
Yeah, there are women who are very sexist.
Yes, yeah. I mean,
not just against men, against other women.
Right, like just listen to any person under like the Trump cabinet talk about women. They're just like, oh, women can't run for president. They're emotional. What if we have our periods and then we press the nuke button? And it's like, first of all, there's many problems with this statement. Second of all, I would actually rather have that than like President Dummy Hands.
Dummy hands.
Look at them, they're just tiny dummy hands. Anyway, I don't understand the length. Okay, I do understand the lengths that if they've gone to frame this the way that it has been framed, because I hate it because I like other aspects of the show, and they would be something that I would be able to enjoy a lot more if the show wasn't obviously trying to pan an agenda towards me. And like, I get it. Like, I guess this is how like people feel when they're like, oh, I don't want more gays in my shows, right? It's like, well, okay, but I don't want my show to be like, women are people who falsely accuse others of rape all the time. When and this is going off of U.S. statistics, of course, but 1 in 5 women are going to report their sexual assault. 1 in 5.
Yeah.
And then of that 1 in 5, 1 in 5 will end up like with an actual prosecution.
Yeah.
Right? So I genuinely do not believe on any level that anybody should be worried about false sexual assault accusations. And I'm sincerely of the belief that in this respect, maybe we should, I don't know, trust the women who say things like the man touched me in the bad place. Because like, think about this. Coming out and saying that is literally, especially in somewhere like Japan, suicide for your reputation. You're saying, I live in a patriarchal society. I am damaged goods now. Right? It's like there is no benefit to doing this. And so having the main character be wronged in this way, and having framing that as being wrong is at best deluded, like misguided, I would say.
Yeah,
and at worst insidious.
Exactly. And the fact is like, this isn't the only misstep or, thing that we have issue with.
Oh no, it gets worse.
Of the show.
It gets worse.
We have not talked about the ending, okay, of this first watch session that we had of the show.
Okay. Oh my God, it gets worse.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So, you might have a bad impression of the Rising of the Shield Hero after hearing us tirade about how this is a bad and lazy and damaging way to write a world, and the context of it. Well, don't worry, everybody. It gets even better, and by better I mean worse. So, because of this event, our Shield Boya decides, well, I can't trust anybody except for apparently the blacksmith armor dealer who is, a bro, and he's like, he understands on like the bro man wave level where he's like, oh, you didn't do that thing. I believe you, despite the fact that we live in a matriarchy, and like clearly I would live in a society where I would be conditioned to believe women.
Yeah.
And I mean, I get it, right? You want to build sympathy for your main character. You want to make them the underdog, but this is not the way to do it. Anyway.
No, it's not even a realistic way to portray it, because the
No,
other merchant or whatever that he goes to sell some stuff, he basically kind of like threatens him, and it's just like, oh, if you don't sell to me, then I'll make these monsters bite at you. And it would be a hilarious moment, because these monsters are like, they're basically the equivalent of slimes, right?
Yeah, they're slimes, like level 1
But
slimes.
the guy, like, they portray in such a dark light that it's just like, oh my God, I'm so scared. The merchant is anyway. And then he's like, okay, fine, I'll sell to you or buy the stuff off you. But like, literally, if this person lived in a matriarchal society where it's a huge insult to even refuse a drink from a woman, and then a woman comes out and he's publicly accused and believed to be a rapist,
right?
Why would you? Yeah. You still wouldn't do business with him, right?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Anyway.
A couple of slime monsters wouldn't threaten you to to do business with this guy. Anyway, continue.
Anyway, it gets worse.
Yes.
And like you might be thinking to yourself, oh, how could it possibly get worse than this? Well, guess what? Slavery. Slavery. Because he has trust issues, he gets propositioned by a shady guy who looks like an evil Monopoly man to buy animal people slaves. They're people, but they have animal parts, so they're obviously beast slaves. And honestly, I'm just so done with like animal people as like stand-in for racial tension already, because like it's already like a damaging stereotype about civility and other such ideas. But like here's the thing, right, is that I don't know. This is not okay.
So
all right.
so
I'll get to it.
Okay.
So basically, because he has trust issues, this guy's like, I see you have trust issues. I know who you are, shield hero. Would you like to buy a slave? A slave is magically contractually bound to you. They cannot betray you or lie to you, or they will die. And so he buys a slave. And the slave is like a 12-year-old raccoon girl. And for what happens in the later episodes, having read the manga and also seeing where the anime has gone to, basically this little girl levels up, and then we find out in just like an amazing sort of turn of events, like, first of all, he's basically her dad. Second of all, it turns out that when beast people level up, they go through instant puberty and their mental state increases because that's how it works. So she goes from being 12 to being like 14, and then to being like 18, and then I guess older, or maybe, I don't know. I think she just stays 18 for a while. And it's like, this doesn't make any sense, first of all.
Yeah.
Does this mean that if you get to level 80, you become like a grandma?
Of course it doesn't.
It's of course it doesn't. No, it's so obviously a contrivance to like have it be socially okay for this little slave girl to be like, "Oh, I love you, master. You're such a nice master." And it's like, as soon as you're on the level of benevolent slavery, you've already gone wrong. Like, and of course, we have a very sensitive context about that in the United States because of our poor history with that. But it's not like it doesn't exist in Japan. Like, Japan isn't a magical place where you get to wave away all these things because it's different over there. They still are subject to the same like level of morality that we kind of come to expect from a developed nation, quote unquote. And do you remember all that stuff that Japan did? Like, I don't know, racially oppressing the native people of the island, or all those human experiments they did in Korea and China. I don't know. I feel like am I forgetting something? Japan, you're not so good about this. Maybe you shouldn't do the whole slavery thing. It doesn't read super hot.
Yeah.
So, yep. Not only is this like a fun like women are all deceitful liars. It's the narrative becomes the only women who aren't deceitful liars are children who can be groomed into dateable women.
Oh my god, don't say that!
But like, it seriously is a very concerning kind of like view of what this place is like. And I hate it because some of the technical aspects of it, aside from the obvious this doesn't make any sense setup. The technical aspects of it are decent. Like the animation is really good. The voice acting's great. The character writing even is decent for what it is, and at least the main character gets to have a personality.
He does have a personality. You're right.
It's just too bad that the personality is just angry incel boy. It's just it's
not our cup of tea.
It really isn't. Like, I'm not making a value judgment about people who watch it, but
yeah, exactly.
I'm like, because obviously, I'm not in charge of your life. You can watch whatever you like, and you don't even have to think critically about it. But like, I'm just. But I would caution and just say, like, sometimes you have to think about the stuff that you're consuming, like media wise, and about what its ideological basis is, and what it is saying on a level that you are not processing immediately if you're not thinking about it, right? Mm-hmm. If everybody watched anime like this all the time, then, well, I mean, okay, let's be real. It kind of happens all the time anyway, and people already don't believe women. So really, it's just kind of this loop. But you know, it's concerning that it's like so far on the spectrum of like, it feels like you're catering to a certain demographic of people that I don't really want to be associating with.
Exactly.
And of course, like I'm not making a value judgment about people who watch the show, because I think it is legitimately entertaining, and there's a lot in it that, if you can get past, you know, the initial kind of hurdle, right, is a purposeful, vengeance fueled isekai adventure. Which, I mean, if I said that to somebody out of context, you know, they'd be like, oh, that actually sounds kind of interesting. I would watch that. Yeah. And having read some of the later chapters, it's okay. First of all, he just fills out his harem of like weird animal girls. Oh
no! Don't say that.
I don't think they're all slaves, but they might be, and I don't ever remember. But I might just be remembering, you know, Death March to a Parallel World, which also had the whole, like, animal girls, slaves. This is reasonable. But this is reasonable, but it's okay, because the main character's a good guy, and, you know, he's a good slave master. And it's like, okay, that's gross. And the thing is, even the male characters, the other male characters who are basically shit to this guy, mind you, they start out shit to him and then they never really get any better, are still portrayed as like kind of like decent guys. They're just being deceived by the woman and being turned against him. And it's like, oh, you're really just doubling down on this, aren't you? And it's like, boy, I really wish that this wasn't the kind of revenge story that I was watching, because we already have a concerning amount of people who put out things like revenge porn, which is already like a bad violation of like people's autonomous rights and private property and like privacy. I guess I shouldn't say private property. Because Karl Marx would be upset with me. But you know, you are infringing upon someone's bodily autonomy, and you're doing something, by the way, quite illegal. Yeah. But it's okay in this show because he's in the right. He's not, you know, they're just falsely accusing. Oh, God, I hate it. I hate the justification. It is so hard to get into this show because of it. Like, it's every time you're like, oh, I'm kind of enjoying this like underdog adventure story, you realize like, oh, wait a minute, he hates women. Like, why do you hate women so much? Like, we get it. You hate women. And I'm not saying that about the main character. I'm saying about the author. So
I think we would have a hard time recommending it to people who do analyze the stuff that they watch in a similar vein that we do. But if you don't do that, if you're just in for like a mindless watch, then this can also suffice, right?
If you are like a straight boy who has never thought about anything critically in their life,
Soupy,
this is for you.
Other people enjoy this too, though, is the thing. And but that's because they don't think about that kind of stuff when they're reading a story, right?
Or they can like look past it. I know a lot of people who, you know, genuinely feel very ambivalent or enjoy this show despite its sort of ideological basis, and I think that's okay. Like, I'm not gonna say, you know, it is all media should be mediated and it's bad if you watch things that are problematic. No, everything is problematic, and it is, as long as you are thinking critically about it and you're not just letting the show tell you things and you perceiving that as like that's what the gospel kind of thing. Right.
Yeah.
As long as you think critically about what you watch, then, you know, it's fine to watch stuff that is kind of trashy. Like, God knows I have seen so much trashy stuff over the years.
Sometimes you just want to watch trash and not think about stuff, and it's fine.
Do you remember like the show Comfer?
I never watched it, right? I don't think so.
Okay, it's one of those weird Japanese things where they decide, you know what we really want to explore? What if guys became girls, but also they fought, and also titties?
Okay.
And it's bad, kind of. It's like a hot trash fire dumpster bad, like to the point where it's kind of like amusing to watch because of how trashy it is.
Is it like self-aware bad, or is it just like
I don't know, but it's so far on that spectrum that it becomes like almost self-aware bad, because it's like they're dudes, but they turn into like high school girls to fight, and also I guess they're kind of lesbians. It's a very strange setup, and I also think this show has awakened some like particular feelings in a lot of people. I mean, it's the Ranma 1/2 thing, right? Where you're just like, wait, how is that a curse?
Yeah.
And
sure.
Congratulations, you're trans. Anyway, so yeah, I would have trouble recommending this to anybody except for like some very specific people that I know clearly don't think about this.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I mean, honestly, just imagine trying to explain this to anybody. You being like, okay, this is a show where a guy is falsely accused of sexually assaulting a woman, and also in the place that he goes to, that is the highest crime imaginable, and he should be punished by death, except he's one of the legendary heroes, so he just gets stripped of all his stuff, and also, he gets a slave girl who he then grooms into a fine woman who falls in love with him. But it's okay because he doesn't love her, probably.
And this isn't even like that stuff isn't like
I'm not exaggerating.
We put a personal
this.
opinion on it, right? These are facts that happen. These are actual things that happen in the story.
Yeah, this is literally what is happening.
Yeah.
And it's like, I see.
Yeah.
You don't understand anything about how the world works.
Yeah. Well,
so yeah, that's our verdict. That's our verdict.
Yeah. I think we've given this series enough time of day.
Yes, I think we've put it through enough of the ringer. Because I mean, I know you're not going to watch the rest of it, and I would be hard pressed to spend more of my precious time watching this.
Exactly.
To be perfectly frank.
Yeah. Anyway, speaking of something that I will spend time watching.
Yes.
The next series that we want to talk about is The Promised Neverland, Yakusoku no Neverland. And major spoils for the first episode because
but you see it coming like a million miles away.
Yeah, but still, it is a twist, right? There is a huge plot hook in the first episode, so be forewarned. We're going to talk all about it because that's the main focus of the show. Yeah. But the plot hook doesn't happen until like later on in the episode. So if you have any interest in watching the show, do it before you listen to us talk about it. All right,
there's your spoiler warning.
Yeah,
3, 2, 1, let's go. Warning.
Okay, so basically this show, as you have so accurately put it, and I didn't even realize, is that this show is basically the anime version of Chicken Run, but with children.
It is! It's just Chicken Run!
So if you never watched Chicken Run, or you need like some memory jogging, basically Chicken Run is about these chickens that become aware that they're being raised on a farm to be eaten.
and so they try to escape.
They try to leave the farm.
Yep.
This is what happens to this orphanage of children. And they are basically being raised to become food for this kind of like weird, I don't know, like foreign alien demonic species. Like we don't know anything about them yet. And they come around and they collect children every once in a while. And the explanation for it to the other children is like, oh, they got adopted. Oh, jeez.
They're not being adopted.
They're being adopted.
Eaten.
But yeah, it is something that you basically see coming, but I feel like they lead into it really nicely, right?
Yeah.
Like
I mean, it's basically Chicken Run, but like 8 times more horrifying because it's not played for comedies.
Oh no, yeah, it's not. Yeah, exactly. It's a horror anime.
It's so funny to describe it as Chicken Run, but with anime children.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it is. I mean, this is a very like dark, obviously. You know what? This reminds me of a lot of young adult novels that I read when I was younger. I think a lot of them had very, not like this exact plot, like, oh, we're gonna be turned into food, but a lot of them had, you know, plots where it's like, oh, we have to escape this oppressive institution before it kills us, right?
Yes.
And that's basically what it is. Like, these children are living their like nice idyllic orphanage life, and they're growing up with all these children, but really they're just being farmed for meat, and
right.
And so they want to escape. And we obviously only watched 1 episode of this, so we don't know where it goes. But supposedly it is quite the horror thriller. And
yes, which we haven't gotten one of these in a while, I feel like. Right?
Yeah,
like
yeah. I think it builds tension surprisingly well for an anime, especially because anime is not really that good at that. Weirdly.
Exactly. And I love it because it takes advantage of switching art styles, right? So when it's in the idyllic moments, it's very cute, like kind of almost moe blobish kind of anime style, and
it's like a
lovely.
Softer 7 Deadly Sins.
Exactly, right? And then when it gets to the horror moments, like you get to see like frame for frame what these children, like the fear that these children are experiencing, like every little wrinkle in their faces, and just like the entire mood, the entire style changes. And then as soon as they're back at the orphanage, it changes back to the cute style again. Oh my god, it's so well done. And the pacing is great.
Well, this shift in tone, it just makes sure you clearly understand how it works. Yeah. Like it so clearly explains the tone shift, because you go from having some like what you expect, like this like kind of moe blob anime style, to like, oh, they're making like realistic horrified expressions, right? It's kind of like the Higurashi thing.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Yeah, so we'll be continuing this one because I at least I'm very interested in it. I think it's well done so far, and
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, that's all we got to say about that. All right. Slurp turned into meat.
No, stop.
Those children, they're meat.
No, leave them alone. They just want to grow up and be happy.
Yeah. Also, if you're like squeamish, maybe this is a tough watch. First episode does not pull any punches, and I mean, okay, the first clue that you get that something is wrong is that they have numbers tattooed on them, which is, I mean, that is just right. And okay, this, I promise I won't just keep coming to Shield Hero, but this is how you do something. This is how you like do something with any amount of tact. Because if you depict like human beings with numbers tattooed on them, you're obviously making allusions to the Holocaust. And if you're not, then you maybe should have thought about that. And that would be considered problematic if it was played lightly, but it's not. Like, that's literally the premise of the show. And so it works here, like this kind of thing that would that might otherwise be kind of iffy, but it doesn't necessarily work in Shield Hero because Shield Hero doesn't think about it at all. Anyway.
Yeah, it feels like they considered it pretty carefully in this show. You know?
Yeah, I think it's a very deliberate choice.
Yes. Yeah, and I think a lot of it does have to do with the fact that these children, it serves as a device to show that these children aren't being considered as humans, right? Otherwise, why would they have numbers on them? You know, they're being raised like you would livestock, right? Livestock is tagged, and so that's what these children are. So
anyway,
yeah.
Let's talk about Dororo, which is an adaptation of Osamu Tezuka's samurai revenge story about a boy whose dad sold his body to demons, and now he has to kill them to get them back. This is great.
This is actually a really good anime so far.
You know, because when you think about Osamu Tezuka and his like art style, it's like it doesn't really lend itself to this kind of story.
Right, exactly.
And they've basically brought it into the modern era, and like this is like basically our modern remake of an older property of the quarter of the season. And they've brought it up to like kind of a modern art style. It looks a lot like Sword of the Stranger. And
yes.
It's done by Studio Madhouse, and it is absolutely gorgeous. Like,
oh my god, it's so good.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure about this to begin with because the premise sounds like kind of like, I mean, the premise is very like 60s.
I mean, yes, and
then
the way that the whole story starts is very like old-timey Japanese drama.
But it plays so well because of the art style and the decisions that they made in regards to that, because it's so like stark, and I wasn't sure I would like this until I saw like a clip of the animation. I was like, oh, this is awesome.
Yeah,
like this is great.
It's legitimately great, and the first episode might end up losing you a bit in the beginning because, like I said, it is like told like an old Japanese drama. But just stick with it until the end of the episode if you decide to pick this up, and you'll see what we're talking about in terms of the animation and why we really want to watch more.
Yes, yeah, for sure. It's. I mean, it is as far as a show goes. This is a very straightforward, revenge-focused action anime. Yeah, and it's awesome. Yeah. Like it's so good. My eyes are in shock at what I've just seen. It looks really good.
Yeah, it's amazing. Gets your blood pumping.
And that boy has swords in his arms because he doesn't have arms because his dad sold him to demons.
Yeah, pay attention to the details in the beginning. They will come back later on.
They'll come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you wanna watch cool supernatural samurai revenge, that's it. It's Dororo.
That's it. Yeah, that's Dororo. Okay, so next we have Kaguya-sama, Love is War, and a very long Japanese title.
Yes.
So I actually read the manga for this a while
I've
back.
also read the manga for this.
Right, and I think it's a pretty good adaptation, right?
It's basically just a 1-to-1 adaptation, and that I think works for some people and doesn't work for others. Okay. Because I've heard complaints about the narration, like kind of killing the show, but I think it works because it doesn't let you really think about it because it over-explains everything, but I think that's kind of the point. Like the point is that they overthink it to the point of absurdity, and that's like where the humor comes from. So,
yeah, the narration never bothered me, so
I think this is a very hit or miss show actually, and I think it hit for us.
Yeah, it hit our sense of humor and whatnot. But
that's just because we like terrible, awkward people who get themselves into bad messes.
Yeah, it's about these two student council members, and they very clearly have feelings for each other, but they are so prideful and egotistical that they just want to make the other one like confess to them in the most embarrassing and humiliating way possible, like basically beg for them to be with them, right? And neither of them are willing to give in, and so the entire series is based on them completely missing each other in terms of communication and just like getting into like really awkward hilarious situations. I don't know. It's actually it's pretty well done in my opinion, and there's a reason why it's really popular in Japan, so I'm a little surprised but also like pleasantly surprised that it got an anime.
I was surprised that it was not a short form, but it basically is.
Me too.
But
Yeah.
they just kind of compile it into like 24-minute episodes, which I guess is fine. I think I would have preferred it as a short form, actually.
I think so too. Yeah.
You know what? Like, I would actually prefer it like a what's it called? A Honda, like the bookseller.
Oh.
Like where it's like 10-minute episodes, but they have like 2 or 3 bits.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think after like 24 minutes is a little bit long for.
It's a bit long for
what
it.
is basically like a short form comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of back to back.
Yeah, they do it in that way of like, oh, they have like a couple of bits throughout, but I think just a shorter episode length in general would be. Better.
I mean, I think I understand why they do it, because there are some chapters and arcs that could use the full 24 minutes, but
Sure.
it's not gonna pay off until those moments come around. So yeah. I mean, if you like awkward rom-com stuff and this tickles your funny bone, it's a good watch.
Yeah,
I would say. Okay, let's talk about Boogiepop wa Warawanai. So this is complicated because apparently this is based on a light novel that basically invented the term light novel because they just had no idea what to call it. Not that it was the first light novel, but it was the first light novel that needed to be called a light novel. And it is from like 1997 or 98, which I mean is obviously like a long time ago. You know, that's it's like 20 years ago, 22 years ago now. And it is okay. I'm hesitating because I'm not even completely sure what it is. Because we only watched the first episode, and the first episode doesn't tell you anything.
Yeah, it's actually a really well, I can't even say it's a poor pilot episode, but for someone who doesn't know anything about Boogiepop and any of the novels and like none of it, it's a really poor introduction to it. But I imagine for people who have actually read it, they would know more about what's going on.
So I have slightly different feelings about this. I actually think it was good because I think it conveys the exact tone it wants to, and also leaves you in confusion, and that's on purpose.
Okay.
And it is disorienting to watch for sure, because basically you have the first half of it, which is like the beginning of the show, and the last half of it, which seems like the end of the show, and then you don't get anything in the middle because presumably the other episodes are going to fill it in, backwards. And it's like, I think it'll make a lot more sense when we watch the second episode.
Okay, I'm hoping so, because the first episode just threw me through a loop, and I wasn't on board for it.
But anyway, so Boogiepop was highly, highly influential to a lot of stuff that came out in the early 2000s. And it was, funnily enough, it was apparently inspired by JoJo. JoJo. And there was an anime adaptation that aired in 2000, which doesn't follow the light novels, but is an anime original story.
So if you heard of Boogiepop Phantom, it's that.
Yeah. But apparently it's just a completely different thing. Anyway,
Yeah.
it's like a weird supernatural-ish story about like girls getting murdered in school, and then Boogiepop appears rising out of the depths of human consciousness or something to, I guess, fix it. Maybe it. Okay. When I explain who this inspired, you'll begin to get more of a picture of it, because so Boogiepop inspired Ryogo Narita, who did Bakano and Durarara, Nisio Isin, who did the Monogatari series and Katanagatari, Nasu Kinoko from Type Moon. I love that his fucking like name is just eggplant mushroom. It's like, that's how I want to represent myself online, eggplant mushroom. And also the writers of the Persona games, which makes a ton of sense.
Yes.
It feels very Persona, like super Persona,
Like especially old school Persona.
I mean, also it reminds you a lot of Persona 4, because a lot of the shots you get are of people hanging from telephone wires.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, definitely big like body horror warning for this one. There's some uncomfortable shots that get glazed over pretty quickly, but they're still pretty shocking to look at.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you've ever seen like a Satoshi Kon movie, it's not that bad, but you know,
Yeah.
it is around that level of like disturbing kind of imagery.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? It does actually feel a lot like Paranoia Agent a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously I can't say anything about it yet, but I think it is interesting.
Okay.
I
mean, we'll watch more, and then
I'm
we'll be
fascinated
able to tell you more
by
about it.
The animation is also relatively good, but we haven't really seen a lot of it, to be honest,
Yeah.
because they're just kind of talking on the roof. So
Yeah.
I'm waiting.
Mm-hmm. I'm waiting
for it.
to see the goodness, because I know that it is a compelling story. So, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna talk about Manaria Friends.
Manaria Friends.
Manaria Friends, which in the English version is sometimes localized to Mysteria Friends, which actually technically makes sense because the word mana derives from a word that means I don't know what it is. Yeah, so Mysteria actually works, but I'm not. Sometimes I wonder about the decision to localize certain things in side game stuff because they clearly have an English localization team in house, but sometimes they make, especially some of the earlier stuff, they make questionable decisions about what their stuff is. Anyway, that's aside from the point. So you might be wondering, what is Manaria Friends? Well, it is part of the extended side games Rage of Bahamut multiverse, which is to say, it's kind of like those things but different a little bit. It is basically lesbians at Hogwarts. Okay, so the plot of it, and Renu doesn't know this because she hasn't seen anything other than the first episode.
Yeah.
The plot, the premise of this is that one of the characters is a half dragon, and she's like, "Oh, I'm so lonely. I don't know how to fit in. I'm so weird because I'm a half dragon." And then the other person is An, who is a princess, who is like, "I love it when you play the piano." I mean, that's
they're both
great.
princesses.
They're both princesses, I guess, technically. That part is not part of the Grand Blue version that I know. So,
okay.
Yeah, I guess she's also like technically a princess. I don't know how Rage of Bahamut really works, other than like Cygames just kind of recycles the same stuff over and over again. But yeah, it's a cute, like, I'm not sure if it's gonna be slice of life or not yet because I don't know what they're doing with it.
Yeah.
Like we saw the first episode, it was just like introducing the like dynamics of the two leads.
Right.
And then also Owen, who I love. I love Owen. He's just
and
like
his clip-on ponytail.
Yeah, his clip-on ponytail. He's just like the knight, and he just like watches over them. And
he's
the
one guy in this entire anime.
He's like the one dude.
I mean, there's a couple of like faceless NPCs or whatever that are male, but you know.
But yeah, Manaria Friends is honestly pretty good. The animation looks a lot better than I thought it would, because I'd only ever seen stills until that point, but it looks a lot better. It looks a lot better in motion than the stills give it credit for. And it's I don't know. It's like it's coded to be so gay.
It's very cute, and
Renu, they blush at each other.
The romantic overtones are very overt.
They're like, there.
They're there, man.
I mean, this is also not like necessarily me just projecting, right? Because I've seen some of the uncap art for Grand Blue, and like there's literally one where they're on like a little piece of rock in the middle of a bunch of really clear water, and they're like laughing, and the breeze is blowing, and she's like stroking her hair while her head is in her lap. And it's like, there is no straight explanation. Do you know what I mean? Like, fellas.
Yeah.
Fellas.
I mean, They can argue. People on this planet can argue all they want that these two are just best friends and they're having a nice
just
connection.
gals being pals.
Just gals being pals. But my God, I ain't seen no gal pals blush that much at each other with the sunset sparkling in their eyes and in their hair, and just like it's a lot.
it reads very shoujo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super shoujo. So I mean but it's really cute.
It is really cute, and I don't know if Cygames will actually do anything with that, but, you know, also consider Cygames did Zombieland Saga, and we got, like, an actual legitimately good depiction of a trans girl, and...
We could be going places.
We could possibly be going somewhere with this, because I feel like they've wanted to write this anime for a long time, but the original production got scrapped, which honestly is a blessing in disguise, because the newer production looks a lot better. Anyway, but it's you know what, I learned that recently they're gonna remove the Valentine's Day restrictions on Granblue, where originally you had to be like the opposite gender to get Valentine's Day messages from certain people, so you would have to switch your gender back and forth to see all of them. But now they're just removing that entirely.
Good.
They're just like, you can just look at all of them if you want to. It's possible. I'm praying. Cygames, if you do this for me, I will spend money on your game forever. I will be in your service forever. Like, I would have to thank you for my life.
You already do.
Thanks, Cygames, for my fucking life.
You're already in their pocket. Yeah, it seems like it could be a nice watch, so
yes,
I'm looking forward to it.
Yep. All right, go.
Next we have Quintessential Quintuplets, Gotobu no Hanayome. So I would not have given this series the time of day if you hadn't made us watch it, but I'm kind of glad that you made us watch it, because it turned out to be good. Like, well, I mean, it turned out to be funnier and more endearing than I expected it to be, right? Which is, the premise is very generic blah about dude becomes the tutor of these quintuplets, and they're all pretty girls with boobles, and it has a really nice sense of humor where it's very like the spite that is emitted between these characters is really spot on.
Yes.
And they kind of carry it, right? And there's like they got the array of different kinds of ladies, like personality types and stuff like that. And the jokes just landed well for me, you know? Like, despite how awfully generic the premise is, the way that they were able to execute it was well done, in my opinion.
Yeah. So this is one I've read the manga for.
Okay.
And I initially started it because I was like, oh, the art looks like kind of nice.
Sure.
First of all, the art is gorgeous in the manga. Like, if you are interested in this series at all, read the manga. It is it's legitimately gorgeous. Like, it blows me away, the quality of the pages, because every page is like rendered really wonderfully.
Wow. Okay. You wouldn't know that from the anime.
You wouldn't know that from the anime, because sometimes the anime is a little inconsistent.
Yeah.
They put animation where it matters.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it is a harem rom-com about girls who are quintuplets. And the premise of the show is that it's a flashback from his marriage day, and he's clearly marrying one of them, but because they're quintuplets, you don't know which one it is.
Yeah, exactly.
And like they
so
don't use her they don't use her voice either, so it's like even more shrouded.
Yes.
So yeah, I completely agree in that the setup is very generic at first glance, but the actual humor and the emotional beats land surprisingly well. And I think for me it just goes to show, like, you can have like a generic plot, or you can have like an unoriginal, starting point to your story, but it's all about, the how you carry it out, right? Yes,
that's where the originality and the creativity comes in, and I think that this series kind of proves that.
Yeah, for sure. It's I was also surprised at how much I actually like ended up really liking this series. Like I binged everything that was out when I started reading it. I was like, this is so good.
Wow.
And I don't know. I think part of it is that it's like a, it's a harem setup, but that's not like the only thing about it. And there is a legitimate sense of the connection between the quintuplets, like the actual siblings, where because they're siblings, they have the baked in dynamics of being siblings. Like some of them like each other, some of them hate each other, some of them like love all of them, despite the fact that also like they get on your nerves because they're your siblings. And I like how that plays, and I like that we get the distinct personalities of them, and they're like talking to each other. Like honestly, the main character is almost inconsequential in a lot of these scenes, and
yeah,
that's not to say that he's not interesting, because he definitely has a lot more personality than a lot of harem protagonists. Like,
yes.
He has the generic traits of like, oh, he's like hardworking and like a good dude, but also he's kind of just like a weird study jerk. Do you know what I mean?
He is. He's
like,
a study jerk.
Like he's really like, he's not nice all the time, and he's like really obsessive about studying, and obviously you get the sense that this is because of his upbringing and the fact that he lives in like a really rundown like poor financial situation. And like he gets like the yakiniku bowl set without yakiniku, and so that's cheaper because it's the price of rice, but you get miso soup with it.
He's so
and I love
thrifty,
it.
And I love it.
Yeah. Like he has a lot of these like really fun personality quirks that really play well with the rest of the cast, because it introduces moments of conflict.
Right. It almost reminds me a little bit of Haruhi from Oran, right? Where she's also very like spend conscious. She lives in a single parent household. They're poor and whatnot, and they're surrounded by rich people, which these quintuplets are also rich. And she's also like very hardworking. She studies very hard for her grades because she's there on scholarship. And so this boy is also like a study nerd, but he's also a study jerk, unlike Haruhi. Yeah,
he's like he's not very nice a lot of the time.
Not nice, and I love that. I also do love, like you said, he's not always the focal point, right? It's more about the general interactions of all the characters, mainly the girls, with each other. Yeah, and so you don't have to worry about. They do it because it is a harem, but not as blatantly as other harem anime, where it's just like every girl, like her every action centers around the main character, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of care put into the relationships between the girls that makes it feel a lot better to watch, because it's not just the universe revolves around this shitter dude. It's just he happens to be here, and they happen to like him because he's just a study weirdo. Which is basically what happens. They're just like, you're just so weird, but I guess I'm into it.
Yeah, I mean, and it does play well, I think, on the classic harem tropes, right? So you have like the main girl or whatever, who's probably the favorite to be his love interest, which she is the one that he argues with the most. She's a little bit soon, And
you would think so, Renu, but I am not so sure.
Okay, I will be pleasantly surprised. And then they have the spacey girl.
I have no basis for saying that.
You read the manga!
I have no basis for saying that. We still don't know who it is, but
Yeah, well, yeah, anyway. They have the spacey girl, they have the happy-go-lucky girl, they have, like, the One-san, so eroi girl.
That one's my favorite.
And then they have the prissy girl with the Hime complex, and yeah, so, and then they also, of course, have, like, oh, One-san is sleeping naked in her bed, and oh no, don't pull her blanket off kind of stuff, too. But it's not as annoying because the other stuff in the show is a nice balance for me, right? And I'm really sensitive to like really awful generic rom-com crap. So.
Well, also the way that it's played is so straight that it's funny, right? Where he's like, here, just like get out of that blanket, right? And she's like, no, I'm naked underneath. And he's like, okay, whatever. And he just leaves. It's so funny because he is like such a different protagonist than a lot of harem protagonists, where he's just like, I just want to get these like girls to study. Like I just, please, I'm trying to do my job here. Because it's not like, oh no, I'm a lucky pervert, I'm in a situation, oh no, boobs, right? It's literally just, okay, just put some clothes on and come downstairs, we gotta do some studying.
Yeah, his first, his initial reaction to all this was complete and utter dread.
He's like, oh no, please God, no.
Yeah, I like that his first foot into this like whole like escapade is like, it's on the wrong foot, right, with all of these girls. Yes,
yeah. Also, Sexy Ane-san is voiced by Kana Hanazawa, who I love. I love Kana Hanazawa.
Yeah, she's your wife.
She's my wife. Borat voiced my wife.
Yeah, so if you like rom-coms and you want to see something that might actually be pretty decent, then maybe give this one a shot. It's still, like I said, pretty tropey, but it doesn't rub me entirely the wrong way. So
yes, yeah. For sure. Kana Hanazawa is the original singer of the Renai Circulation song. The one that gets memed all the time. I love Kana Hanazawa. Anyway.
Yeah.
Next, let's talk about Rinshi, Ekoda-chan. So each episode of this is directed by a different guy, and the main character, Ekoda-chan, is voiced by a different voice actress, which is super interesting.
Yeah.
We've only seen one episode, but basically it's like a 5-minute short form, like of a bunch of different like skits, I guess you could call them, and then they just have like a 15-minute interview with the people who did the episode.
Yeah, I like the interview part a lot.
It was actually really interesting because we often don't get insight into this stuff, and it's really fascinating to get to see people who actually make anime like talk about how to make anime.
Yeah.
And what that process is like. I was very interested in the conversation that the first director, Akitara Daichi, who, if you don't know, is the person who did directed the 2001 Fruits Basket anime.
Yeah.
And former AKB48 member Ishida Haruka, who's voicing Ekuda-chan. It was very interesting hearing his process for choosing her as the voice actress. He's like, I heard her voice once at like an audition, and it wasn't like an amazing reading, but it just stuck in my mind, and I was like, it's perfect. So I thought that was really interesting. I was very into the interview portion of this show, and I'm very interested in watching more episodes of it. And I guess like this character Ekoda-chan is like kind of an existing icon in like the Japanese sort of cultural sphere.
She's been around for a long time.
Yeah, I think it's over now, but I think her serialization was like really long, and it is surprisingly it's surprisingly frank about a lot of things. Like she's sleeping with like a lot of dudes. Like,
so she's
in the first
worker.
episode, right?
Yeah.
Like she's like, we see her in bed talking to like at least like 2 different dudes.
Were they 2 different ones?
Yeah, they were different ones.
I thought they were the same one. I thought it was just like her boy.
I think they were different ones.
Okay. Because he talks about like seeing her boyfriend or whatever in the first episode and how he's there all the way to the end kind of thing. I don't know.
Oh, I thought it was the other way around, where he shows up in the last episode or whatever, and then it's like, oh, he was there all along.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't remember. But yeah, I mean it's kind of, I think the way that Akitara Daichi puts it, he says like, she's not exactly like, she's a little bit subculture, but she's not exactly subculture. And I think that's like the perfect way to put it.
Yeah.
Is that, it feels like something that's like really clearly like Japanese, but not like necessarily super niche Japanese.
Yeah.
But like she's clearly an icon of some kind, but not one that necessarily is like as straightforward as people might expect. So yeah, I'm very interested in watching more of this. I hope
that's nice.
I hope that the rest of it is good. I'm very interested in like what other people are gonna do with this. Honestly.
Yeah, me too. It's fun. I like how they portray this character. Like I like that they described her as kind of like a New Yorker.
Yeah, and I think that makes a lot of sense. And she reads very much as like a career woman who's like searching for something, which is very like New York, I guess. It's at very least like a pop culture view of New York, which makes sense. Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about our last thing before we get into the lightning round, which is just going to be you talking about things that I didn't watch. Talking about a bunch of stuff, yeah. Virtual San wa Miteiru, which is the virtual YouTuber anime. And I don't know what I expected, but it wasn't this, but maybe it should have been. I don't know what you expected either. I saw Hideaki Anno was like doing something. I was like, I guess I'll watch this. I don't really watch like a lot of virtual YouTubers, but it's like about a certain set of virtual YouTubers, of some of whom I guess are, I guess they're like well known. I don't actually know how well known they are, because this is so far outside my sphere of knowledge, because I don't pay attention to like Japanese internet anymore, really. Like if this was like 2008 me, I would be like, yes, excuse me, that is X from X. She does this, but I don't really keep up with that anymore, so I'm not sure what it's about. Like I know Kizuna Ai is, and like Kaguya Luna, and that's kind of it. So Kizuna Ai sings the opening for this anime. I think it's like literally shot in VR chat.
It looks like it's shot in VR chat, except for Unity-chan.
Except for Unity-chan. The best way I would describe this is like it's just a bunch of skits about these virtual tubers, and everything that would possibly encompass. So it is like, I mean, it's kind of like watching something that is clearly meant for children, I guess, is the way that I would put that. I feel like I'm watching something geared towards children.
Yeah,
it's very
like
fast paced.
The internet like concentrated it into like a single series.
Yeah, it's really how do I put this? There's a lot of like very straightforward slapstick humor, and like very strange cutaways to other things. It's kind of all over the place, and I think that's on purpose, because it feels a lot like something like Sesame Street, which has a lot of little sections in a bigger show. So, yeah, that's the way I would put it. You know, it feels like something meant meant to be aimed at children, and I'm not sure what I expected, but it wasn't this. But maybe it should have been, right?
Yeah, I think
it's literally just them interacting in different circumstances, and the appeal of the show is just, whoa, that's the YouTube people that I like, but they're talking to each other and they're doing like comedy skits, or I don't even know what to call them, but yeah. I don't watch this. Like, just
hard
don't.
Pass. Unless you know these virtual tubers, in which case, by all means, this is for you.
I mean, if you're heavily invested in this, then sure, but like, you know, I'm not.
It might be hard to watch if you aren't in that sphere, that very niche sphere.
I think part of it is also like the cast that they use is not people I'm familiar with. Like if it was like, oh, this is like the Kizuna Ai Kaguya Luna show, that might be a lot more interesting, actually. You know, because I think those might be characters aimed at a slightly older audience. I mean, one of the girls is like a gamer FPS girl who plays like PUBG. So, what do I know? I guess.
What do you know?
Yeah, Japan loves PUBG.
That's funny.
Like PUBG is like their Fortnite. Everybody knows what PUBG is.
So they don't do the Fortnites as much as PUBGs?
I don't know. I just know that they really like PUBG. Let's get into that lightning round.
Yeah, lightning round. So this
Tell me
is
about
all the
things,
stuff
Renu.
that I watched, and Soup didn't watch anything. So.
I didn't watch anything.
But you've been sick and dead and stuff.
I'm useless.
No. All right, so the first thing that I watched was Grimm's Notes, the animation. This is a story about this world created by storytellers, and basically all the characters have books of fate that they are born with, and it basically tells them the script of their entire life. And so, like, if you're in a story, then obviously, you know, that's your story script. You follow that, and you know exactly what's going to happen, you know, etc. And these storytellers go around and they're entering stories in order to fix the ones that are like acting weird or like something weird's going on. And the weird stuff is happening because there are these people called the Chaos Tellers, and they're going on and messing up the stories. So it seems like something that I would have liked when I was younger. And the character designs are actually, I like them. They're pretty good, but the animation itself kind of suffers from like same face syndrome, like pretty badly. But other than that, I mean, it's a nice watch. It's like one of those mediocre anime that's like, okay, I can do that. I can watch that. Yeah. Next is Kakeguruixx, the second season of Kakeguruixx.
Yes.
And I've only watched the first episode, but it has amplified the facial expressions, man. They know where their selling point is. And the opening and ending are done in much the same fashion as they did the first season. The music is still pretty good. And yeah, it's about crazy gambling and stuff. And they just roll right into the next gambling thing. So if you like the first season, then you're gonna like this one, I imagine. Next
Sweet.
is Fukigen Mononokean Tsuzuki. This is also everything from here on out is second season. So this is second
this
season
explains a lot.
Fukigen no Mononokean, and it's an anime about this student who ends up in debt to this. Basically, he's like an exorcist, and so he has to help this exorcist run around and, you know, exercise things and clears debt. It's very like whatever, but it's a nice thing to have in the background while you work. So that's why I watch it, because sometimes you need those middle of the road anime. You know what I mean, Sue?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I completely get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also agree that sometimes an anime can just be solidly good, and that's okay. Do you know what? Do you know what anime is solidly good?
Mediocre.
Kuro Mukuro was solidly a good show.
Oh. Yeah.
But it was on Netflix, so nobody watched it.
Yeah. Okay, so next we have Piano no Mori, the second season, and I actually really like the whole Piano no Mori series, so I will be watching this one. If you like piano and you're a nerd for piano and you want to listen to some nice piano music, then this is the one. I haven't watched a whole lot of it. I think I watched half of the first episode. The first season had terrible CG. Like, just awful CG of piano playing. And it seems like they kind of, like, gave a little bit more budget this season, so I hope it's okay. Yeah, and that's it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's it. I guess we've somehow managed to arrive at the end of the beginning of the winter 2019 season.
So what are your feelings overall of the season?
You know what? My feelings overall are I am interested in a handful of shows, of which Shield Hero was initially one of them, but then I watched it again and I was like, oh my god, this is worse than I remember. Like, I see. This is what growth as a person does to you.
Oh my god.
Suddenly this kind of stuff is not even remotely okay. Because when I initially read it, I was like, oh, this is like kind of icky. And then I still read all of it because I was in that isekai mood. And it was a good isekai for what it was. And then,
right.
You know, coming back and watching it now, I'm like, oh no, this has not aged well. This has not aged well.
Yeah.
Yikes.
I think so. There's just like a small handful of things that I'm actually interested in.
Yeah, I there are a handful of things that I'm like really interested in. Like I really want to watch Mob Psycho, but obviously Mob Psycho. Like I'm interested in Promised Neverland. I really want to watch more Dororo.
Yes.
And I'm personally very interested in Boogiepop and am looking forward to the rest of Manaria Friends to see what it's about.
Sure.
I don't think it's as solid of a season as last season.
Oh, definitely not.
But I mean, that's a really high bar.
Yeah.
I think last year was an amazing year for anime, and
yeah,
I'm optimistic about this year because if we continue the kind of forward momentum, then we should be getting some interesting stuff. There's a lot of movies slated for this year that I'm actually really interested in.
Oh, okay.
Like the Yuri on Ice movie, I guess, is coming out this year.
Yeah,
and I'd kind of forgotten about that until now, but I'm like, okay, I could watch that.
Yeah.
Amongst other, like, there's a Konosuba movie coming out this year. Apparently.
Yo.
Yeah.
Forget
So there's a lot
Shield Hero. Watch Konosuba.
Yeah, forget Shield Hero. Watch Konosuba. That's honestly my recommendation. But yeah, I don't think it's a solid of a season. Obviously, I only have the benefit of one episode under my belt of each episode of each series to know, so I'm not sure yet. But I think last season was spectacularly good. So high bar.
Yeah,
I know.
The
I don't
good
expect
news is
it.
that it will hopefully be easier for us to keep up with the anime this time. If we only have a
yeah.
select few to keep up with.
I think it will be. I hope it will be.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm interested in some stuff, and that's good. I'm glad we have a set of things to watch, probably, amongst the other stuff that we have to sample. But you know what? It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's nothing I'm like dying to watch other than Mob Psycho, I don't think.
Same though. Oh, and Dororo for me.
Yeah, I'm interested in more Dororo, but like I feel
Mm-hmm.
like Dororo is like I'll watch it and I'll get what I get.
Yeah. Whereas
So-
Mob Psycho is just like, I can't live without this.
Yeah. Well, I guess we've reached the end. Renu,
That's it.
where can we find you on the internet, and what are you up to this week?
You can find me on the Twitter and the Twitch, and we have that episode about Tumblr, but my Tumblr still exists. It's all at SwanDrawn.
Nice.
I will be streaming more Kingdom Hearts 3 this weekend because I really, 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 really want to play. I'll also be streaming a little bit of pixel art, so if you want to come by and say hi, you can do that. And yeah, I think that's it for me. What about you?
Nice. You can find me on all the places at Literal Soup. If I'm on a place, it's there. I do a lot of like depression tweeting, I guess is the way to put it. Okay, it's not depression tweeting, it's stress tweeting where I'm like I'm tweeting to vent some amount of stress in my life. Which has been unsurprisingly quite high lately.
I mean, yeah.
I made a game which is called Transmission. I just wrote this. It is, as I like to call it, the Forbidden Car LARP, because it is a game that you're technically supposed to play while driving because it's a mech game, and driving a car is like the everyday version of operating a mech. But you probably should not actually play this while driving because it is still not a good idea to drive without your full attention on the road. But maybe if you're like the passenger, you can play or something.
Sure.
But I have that. You can find that on my Twitter. I put that out just kind of as a thing. I'm like, oh, here, out into the world, have my Forbidden Car LARP.
Car LARP.
Yeah. There's also the exciting news. Renu, did you hear about this?
What?
The exciting news that Fumi Yoshinaga's What Did You Eat Yesterday manga is getting a TV drama adaptation. Fumi Yoshinaga's What Did You Eat Yesterday is a manga about a gay couple, and they cook for each other. It's like a daily recipe, but also it's like attached to an adorable domestic daily life of gay people.
Yeah, if you don't know who Fumi Yoshinaga is, she wrote Antique Bakery. Well, she's the artist for Antique Bakery as well. So, yeah. That's awesome, though. I want to see it, actually.
It looks really cute.
Nice.
It looks really cute. All right. I think that's it. I think that's all we got going on. For now, our opening and ending song are still Love Letter From You by Desired from the album Plastic Whatever, with, of course, the addition of Renu's lovely vocals.
No.
Yeah, that's, I mean, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. Cheers.
Yeah.
Do you like how I've gotten sicker over the course of this, like, singular episode?
I know. It's terrible.
I'm dying, Renu.